idea of artistic responsibility, isn't it, from all three speakers? But then again, as an artist and personally, how do you feel about your telling your critical truths? Despite the fact that there's a need or the idea of people conforming, isn't it, to societal expectations, but sometimes those expectations might be things we need to change. How do we tell our truths critically? And sometimes giving offense is because you're saying the truth, isn't it? So how do we do that? How do we tell our truths in a manner that we come out of it okay as artists?
I guess I'll just go back to saying what I said initially, but then I would have to say it in a different way. Like, you know, it's one thing when somebody stands up and says the truth about something, like when you're just standing in a public place and you start saying, yo man, this was for example, potholes and stuff, and it's a whole different thing when you're on stage and saying something like that, and people have maybe paid to come to your event and come to your show, you know, to watch and enjoy a performance of whatever you're performing. Like, when you are just somebody who's just saying something like out there and, you know, speaking against certain issues and certain things, people won't look at you as an artist. What they'll look at is somebody who just do that and say something. And then in that context, it then takes me out of the position where I have to say, I'm speaking this as an artist, because at the end of the day, maybe yeah, people do know me, but it's not every day that somebody can just, you know, point blank recognize somebody and say, okay, that was that artist. You know, I don't know if that's making sense. Like whenever you say something, it's not every time that people would recognize you in the capacity of being an artist when you're saying something in public. But when you're on stage, the number one thing that's coming up is that you are an artist and you're creating art. So in other words, no matter how you're going to say what you're going to say, and even if you're going to offend people, but it's still going to have to be artistic in a way that people can still appreciate the art before they appreciate what you're saying and what you're saying. So yeah, I think that's what I can say.
In terms of like freedom of expression, I think when you're trying to speak on an issue that might be maybe put you in some kind of danger or some kind of reproach, I think that's where you have to apply your artistic creativity on how you can creatively say something that you are not happy about without offending the next person, without offending them in a way. Like, there's so many things that I'm offended about in society that there's nothing I can do about. In terms of me using my art, I would rather criticize the system than criticize an individual, because I'm also an individual who has rights and wrongs. But if I'm going to criticize the system, I'm just stating the facts, like we need these things to move in this way so that society can move on and develop. That way I'm not offending anyone, I'm talking about a system. So for me, like especially hip-hop, there are so many devices. Hip-hop and poetry is more like one and the same thing. There are so many devices that you can use to talk about a certain situation and express yourself without offending someone. So I think in that aspect you have to be, censorship kind of forces you to be creative. Like you are in a place where you're confined by certain principles or certain laws, but you have to be creative to break out of those barriers without offending whoever might get offended.
That was going to be my next question in terms of how does that affect the kind of products we produce as artists, the idea of self-censorship. So this is a discussion, and I would love to get comments from the audience, the artists who are present. Is there anybody who wants to talk and tell us more about self-censorship and how it has affected their work?
Got it! My name is Witi from Physical Arts. I'm also an artist. Yeah, I just want to ask, being an artist, it's sort of somehow talent. You are exposing your talent to the world. And now, being the fact that it's a talent, it really means it's something that you're born with. Maybe my talent as an artist is to expose to the world my real life. I'm telling to the people how I grow up and how do I cope up with life. And then comes that I'm living in a society whereby people don't appreciate my life. Like they are not accepting my music because I'm telling them my life. So how do I adapt to that situation since this is my talent? And now I'm trying to satisfy people because I'm censoring to what they want. How can I adjust to that?
Well, it's always a tricky situation, but I think I'll prefer to what LiveSoul said, that if you are existing in an environment where there is censorship, whether you're censored by the law or censored by certain norms and values that come from that society, you have to be very creative in a way. You have to really think hard and elevate your creativity to a level where you're able to balance the two, where you're socially relevant, but at the same time able to communicate a certain message in an unprovocative way. I think there's quite a lot of music that we dance to, that we listen to, that we sing along to, that comes in with a lot of, be it satire or be it very suggestive message, but not so direct. You find a society, for example, is very conservative. There's certain things that are the truth, but if you say them, people will just look at you and I to say, okay, this is an outcast. So I think as an artist, somehow being an artist, it sort of gives you that leverage to go next time and say, okay, how can I commit the subject without really stepping on certain norms and values. But at some point, you have to cross the line because you're an artist. There's certain things that you can't exist within a box. You have to go that extra mile and promote them, otherwise you won't be able to stay dialogue. So I think you should be able to really get the society talking and thinking about things that they don't normally talk about, and that makes you a unique and outstanding artist.
I guess his question was the idea that his lifestyle, isn't it? Your lifestyle choices, what you see now.
To do something, which is cool, which is fine, because it's the second pathway, but I also wanted to choose something. But in order for them to get to accept that this is what I wanted to do, I had to persist and, keep on introducing them to the culture regularly and, take them step by step, not really just saying, okay, this is what I do. Deal with it, I'm going to do this, and whatever you say, I don't mind, I don't care. Like, I took them to a position where I was like, okay, I'll do whatever you want me to do, but at the same time, I'll do what I want to do. And the more I did what I did, like, in an artistic way, and, just keeping on pursuing what I wanted to do, they eventually came to a point where they understood that this is what I was all about, and they eventually, paid attention to what I was saying. So, responding to the question, when and how do I know when and how to speak the truth? I'm not sure if that's exactly how the question was phrased, but I think the most important thing here is the when and where, how to speak, you speak the truth. I think it's a matter of questioning whether the people would understand the culture that you are in, like the background of the culture that you're speaking from. Before they get to accept that this is what you are, they'll just take you as a person who's being just rude. So I think it becomes more appropriate when you understand that the people understand the culture from which you come from. But before that, you need to use a bit of time.
And the idea again is sometimes some hurts go very deep. They're not just personal, it's a lot of people, isn't it? So you need to pick your moments of where you realize it's only now that South Africans are making films about apartheid. And then people can be objective about it when you present your work, isn't it? But if you had done it in a particular space, in a particular time, emotions were very high. and maybe you have a conversation now, or you are just talking from one particular side. So people will always be against something like that. Be objective in the presentation of your artworks. Like find the balance in the fact that you are responsible as an artist to your community.
I think it depends with your truth. Because if like his poem is the truth, like for every day, like it's in every day, right? So it depends with the kind of truth you are dealing with at that moment. There's certain truth like, let's say my father dies, right? And you know, and we don't talk about Babalacho at that moment, later, like after some time, right? My emotions are not together. That's a different kind of truth you deal with at a different kind of time. So it depends with the kind of truth you're talking about. If you're talking about the truth of a social issue that goes on every day, then every moment you get a chance to speak about that, then you should always speak your truth. So it depends what kind of truth are you talking about. It also depends on the people you're speaking to. Ukaenda kutanga kuparidza zvenguruve kuma Muslims, they will not listen to you in a sense.